I'd just like to say thank you very much to our PNC presidents for supporting this initiative tonight. My name's Larissa Penn. I have had children for a very long time going through Cammeray Public School, and I actually went there myself. And this is Allison Taylor, and I'm going to ask Allison, how did you get involved in all of this, Allison?
Well, I'm a parent as well, and I have two girls at Anzac Public School. We recently returned from Switzerland, hence why my older child goes, and also my youngest started in kindergarten last year. Because we were in Switzerland, I know how great public transport can be. And as a chemical engineer, I also know that filtration works. And I was just staggered at the beginning of this project to see what was happening and question who builds a brand new school for 1,000 children and puts an unfiltered stack right next to it. There are a lot of things that don't add up about this project, not least of which is the non-existent business case. But from Anzac Park, that's my personal view, but from Anzac Park Public Schools' perspective, we have focused on the impacts to our school during construction and on the filtration of stacks. In the past year, as Joanna mentioned, our school's been heavily involved. We've had 3 RMS briefings, 1 meeting with Gladys, and we were really hopeful that our feedback would be incorporated into this design. We now actually have 2 stacks within 300 metres of our school. And we also have both of the tunnel exits also. So we've got the surface traffic as well as the unfiltered stacks. And that's really why I got involved. Sometimes I don't want to be, but I feel that I have to. It's really important for our children. My children may not be there when this is finally built, but for the future of our community, it's really important to me. And why did you get involved?
We're at Cammeray Public School. We're very thankful to Anzac Park because and Allison, because they've done an awful lot of research before we came to the table. There was an increasing concern amongst parents, and that was being expressed to Jenny. And at one fateful PNC meeting earlier this year, it was suggested that we actually form a bit of a committee and start to look into our own risk assessment. And we met with yourselves to understand how these tunnels were going to impact Cammeray Public School. And as you'll see tonight, a number of schools, not just our schools, will be impacted heavily by this construction. Personally, I first got involved because the temporary, the RMS is really going to be upset that they've done all this. The RMS chose to put the temporary air monitoring station at the end of my street. Now, my daughter's an asthmatic. There was a huge bushfire and backburning episode earlier this year, which you may remember, and I rang the RMS and said, could I please get the data, because my daughter's asthmatic and I'd really like to understand how, what particulate matter being. I've got a biotechnology background, so it's probably not a normal thing for a mum to ask, but I ask these sorts of things. And they said, no, you can't get that until the EIS comes out. And I thought, what? That's a bit strange. Why can't publicly, available data be publicly available? So that's how I got involved, and later on they chose on page 8 of the planning documents to put the house I grew up in Cammeray on page 8. So that sort of stamped my involvement, but really it's about, for me, it's about our kids, particularly having a child with asthma. That is very concerning, and also just the future of our area, just how many children are growing up in this area, and wanting to understand the impacts and to protect them from harm, essentially. So we are going to be talking to a lot of people tonight, not just Allison and myself. We've got quite a line-up. So we have Noel Child, who you may have heard speak before, but he is going to take a little bit of a different angle tonight for us. He's an independent transport, energy and environmental services professional. We have Councillor Pauline Lockie here, who's the independent councillor for the Inner West Council, who's been very involved, and you might have heard her on the news, been very involved advocating for her constituents. We also have Don Swannell, who is a bush care expert. He is the team leader of the bush regeneration down at Flat Rock Gully. So he's got a lot of information to share with us. We have Professor Wendy Bacon, who's an investigative journalist, and again, she has information to share about air quality monitoring and what's happened on the other side of the bridge. It's good to not just look at the technical information and look at the planning information, but also look at the real lived experiences of people that have actually experienced these tunnel impacts. We've got Dr. Michelle Zybots, who's a research director of the Institute for Sustainable Futures at UTS, who will be talking to us about planning and some options there around how we can actually address congestion in Sydney. So we have quite a lineup of people to talk to. We will be going to around about 9 o'clock, and we will finish with a Q&A session at the end, and hopefully at that point you will have plenty of opportunity to ask any questions that we haven't actually answered. Thanks, Allison. We're just going to start with a bit of background information. So I'm aware that different people in the room will have different levels of knowledge with regards to the tunnel, so I do apologise if we're repeating information that you're well aware of, but it's great as a community that we can come together and really come up to speed on this. So the way we approached it at Cammeray Public School with a range of different parents, ranging in expertise, it's amazing the skill levels that we have between the two schools. We had planners involved, engineers, researchers, scientists from different backgrounds having a look at all the planning documents. You might be aware that October last year there were scoping documents that first came up, and our first look at what this might look like was through those scoping documents. And to be fair, the RMS actually did identify, they're quite big documents and they're up the back there if you want to have a look at them, did identify a number of the risks associated with the planning of this project. They did also look at a number of route options, and through that scoping process, this route was chosen that we see on the screen. At that point, our first impact assessment was based on those scoping documents, which you may have read. So just to help you understand what's been proposed, since that time, quite recently, just over a month ago, there was the reference design documents came out, and there have been changes, quite substantial changes from the scope to the reference design, particularly for our area. So just to explain what's on this map, we've got the Western Harbour Tunnel coming over. It doesn't just end there, just so you know, Pauline. I'm very well aware it doesn't end there. So it comes across the harbour, comes up through Waverton, comes around through St Leonard's Park and ends here at Cammeray, right where we are tonight on the expressway here. The Western Harbour Tunnel then intersects in a junction with the Northern Beaches Tunnel, and the Northern Beaches Tunnel starts here, runs through Narrabeen, sorry I shouldn't poke that today, runs through Narrabeen, under and through Flat Rock Gully, and we will come back to that later, comes up under Northbridge and out and across to Seaforth and up to the sort of hospital area. Whether you call it Northern Beaches Tunnels, maybe a little misnomer. It doesn't always actually go all the way to the Northern Beaches. It stops around that hospital area. There's a Gore Hill extension, which comes and connects up with the M2 here. So that goes out and under Artarmon. There were several other routes reviewed. Those reviews were mostly done on the basis of cost, I would say. There's justifications why not to choose those other routes. But really, as you'll see tonight, what the government calls sensitive receivers, which is the people that are living in and around that route, perhaps weren't scoped in those early stages as much. There's on and off ramps throughout. This light blue line that runs all the way through is the Warringah Expressway. I won't call it expansion, I've got in trouble for that. Reconfiguration is the word, but there are areas like just out here at the golf club where there are going to be slight expansions of the expressway, but generally it's a reconfiguration to allow for all the ports ins and outs. Here at Cammeray we will have 4 ports, so they're twin tunnels. It's not just one tunnel, they're twin tunnels going each direction. There will also be 2 stacks, which I think most people are aware of here. There's also going to be an additional stack put in at Artarmon there, and obviously twin tunnels being excavated in that area as well. What else? The other things we put on this map, which aren't related to exactly to this project, but are related to assessing our impacts, is that the metro line is coming through, the tunnelling for the metro line is coming through in the same period of time. These projects are slated to take around 5 to 6 years. At the moment, that's the estimation, and that body of work will be done at the same time. There's also some planning in place to do some work on Military Road. So you can see just from the map and what's slated to or proposed, that's a very large body of work. So to understand a little bit more about tunnels, how they are constructed, how they work, we are going to ask Noel to come up and have a chat to us about that. Yep, got back to there, that's great. So we're going to get Noel to come up. He's an engineer. Noel has spoken at a number of events. He's an engineer and experienced management and technical professional with over 30 years experience in a variety of senior public and private sector appointments and assignments, and with particular expertise in transport, energy, environmental and sustainability issues. So can we please welcome Noel to